to episode 2. Episode 2 of BattleCast, lads. We're on episode 2. We made it! We actually made it! Hey! The heroic podcast where we talk about all things Masters of the Universe. My name is Emiliano, and I'm an artist and designer working in the toy and pop culture industry. I have 3 fine guest co-hosts with me today. So, chaps, please introduce yourselves.
Josh Van Pelt. I was on episode 1.
What do you do, Josh? Tell them what you do, Josh.
I am a pharmacist in my real life, but for fun, I get to play with He-Man toys, and I'm a member of the Power and the Honor Foundation.
Yay!
I'm Matt O'Toole. I get to work with actors and stuff, sticking makeup on their faces in the movie business.
Yay! And Emiliano, what do you do? Nothing. Okay, right, on with the podcast. Right. Besides having a flu, what do you do, Emiliano?
I try to do books that never get published. And in the spare time between that, I collect figure and sometimes design them.
Yay, come on. I was going through a whole, when you told me you had a bit of a flu there, I was going to, so listeners, Emiliano's a little bit of a flu there, so if he's a bit thingy, so please bear with him, be nice. And so, right, on this podcast, we're actually going to cover a lot of bit of news. So we're going to try and talk a little bit about the Massiverse going over to Netflix. We're going to talk about Kevin Smith again. We're going to talk about a little bit more pop culture Netflix, as Emiliano has now watched the entire series of the Princess of Power, Pop. I've got Pop on my list. I've got my Pop on my synopsis here. So we got Pop on the Pop Netflix, Princess of Power Netflix. Emiliano, it's finally watched the rest of Emiliano has some theories, don't you, Emiliano?
Well, more than theories, I just have an observation, which was interesting. But we'll see. I'll tell you about it.
Okay. And we'll also maybe discuss the vintage figures, because people are starting to get the I say vintage figures, the Super 7 retro vintage line. We've just got a box of them in like the ones with the Merman, Prince Adam, Trapjaw, and who else? Orko. And of course you got your gold and your transparent and your crystal He-Mans and stuff like that in there as well. So we're going to discuss that. We're also going to discuss Masters Universe Origins. Myself and Josh have finally got our Masters Universe Origins figures. Yay!
Yes.
So we're going to be discussing those. And if we have time, we're going to squeeze in a Mondo Faker review. And if we have more time, we're finally going to get onto the comics. And if not, we'll just push the comics into the next episode, or we can devote a whole episode towards the comics and stuff like that. Because to be honest, some of the comics stuff is a little bit vague. I mean, I remember the Thundercats and I remember the DC one and stuff like that. But kind of going back to the Eternity War, I'm a little bit fuzzy now because that's a few years old now and stuff like that. But anyway, we'll kick the show off with some of our latest news. So what's the latest news then, chaps? The latest news is Master Universe may, and we have to say may because it seems to be that a lot of fellow Master Universe fans have the inability to read well. They don't read well so good. And people are saying, oh, it's going to Netflix. No, nowhere did it say it's going to Netflix. It's under discussion. Emiliano, take it away.
Yeah. Yes, that's true about everything, that they just read titles and they don't read the actual articles. And, well, people in general, not just toy fans, I wish.
Yeah.
People should read articles and try to read what article says instead of falling for the breaking news, flashing line. So what's going on is that Sony is considering giving the rights to show the movie basically to Netflix, which means that Sony is still supposed to make the movie, but instead of distributing the movie into theaters, they're considering just giving the rights to Netflix, so it will be only aired to Netflix. Netflix wouldn't be involved into the production of the movie. They will just buy the finished product. So comparing like other Netflix product to other movies, it doesn't really make sense in this case because for good or bad, Netflix won't be adding anything unless there is other parts of a possible deal that we don't know about. But also, again, this is just being discussed. It's not a done deal. They're considering it, and maybe that will happen, maybe not. Of course, there are a lot of things that we can talk about, like why they're doing this. They had a major failure with Men in Black International, I heard.
Yeah.
So they're Yeah, they're pretty scared about about releasing another big special effect movie.
I don't think it's necessarily even being scared, but if you're offered guaranteed money from Netflix and you're projecting only to make a certain amount theatrically, then if it makes financial sense, it's not necessarily a move being made, from being scared. It just makes sense.
Is it a financially? Sign? Is it a sign? Do you think that Sony are a little bit? Sorry, go on, Matt.
I just said monetarily, it totally makes sense. That's if I was in charge, that's kind of what I'd do.
Why?
I'd take guaranteed money.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that basically that this deal would ensure that that Sony don't lose anything.
Correct.
But so it's a win.
I mean, ideally, I don't know what the deal actually is, but.
That would mean Netflix then would absorb a lot of a failure if it did fail. Because, honest to God,
nothing fails on Netflix though. Like, from an economist point of view, that money's already spent. So whether or not people watch it, it doesn't matter. It's factored into their budget of programming.
Right.
They don't make money by people watching anything on Netflix. One person can watch it, and it really doesn't cost Netflix. Actually, it would make no difference to Netflix if anybody watches it or not.
So I mean, all right, we're talking about a budget here now. All right, so I mean, my budget stuff has kind of gone out the window now a little bit of what stuff costs. So we know that your average Hollywood movie, we'll say your Fast and Furious and all these kinds of movies, and your average Hollywood movie, it's usually they're usually about 150 to 200 million, aren't they, to cost to make, really, to some of these more big, heavy special effects ones.
Yes.
Big ones, yeah.
Would that be a fair assessment, Matt? Yeah, about somewhere between that. So, Massive,
I think so, yeah.
Because we know, something like John Carter, which to me is what Massive Universe should kind of be aspiring to in terms of its lavish, beautiful effects and stuff like that. It won't, because they spent I think it was over nearly 300 million on John Carter.
Was that how much that was? Good.
I think someone can email me and correct me on that, but John Carter, I know, cost I think it was it cost something like 280 million, and they needed to recoup about 300 million to actually make it back in terms of after advertising. Well, such as the advertising was for that. So there's a whole book about the John Carter situation. But a movie, to me, I'm looking at movies that nothing really looks like Masters of the Universe out there. The closest thing I could get to looking like Masters of the Universe would be something like Clash of the Titans, I guess.
Yeah, or maybe 300 possibly.
300, yeah, but again, 300 I see to me was probably made on a nicer, tighter budget too, because they did all that in one soundstage. Now that's economy. That's why 300's a bit of a one of those learning lessons in movies. Is you
65 million.
Was 300?
Yeah.
There you go. Right, so under $1 million. How much money did 300 make then? That made a fortune, that movie. So that just goes to show. So for 65 million, you can make 300. And I've always said Master Universe would like that, but you just put in a lot of matte paintings and stuff like that. But obviously, it looks like they're probably going to go down more of a traditional looking route with a little less. They're not going to film it all in one little small soundstage and move around a couple of boulders or anything. Because it is the 300 works differently because it was set in one scene. So it's in the valley or the Hell's Gates or whatever. So it is one scene. So that could afford to that. Eternia, you want Eternia represented, and you're going to have to go to Iceland for sure for at least some aspects of that again, aren't they? Like I mean, you're going to have to go to Iceland, and you're going to have to go to, and obviously they're going to shoot a lot of it in Hungary, of course, at the moment. That's what Mattel said anyway. That's what they said, that they're going to be starting shooting Hungary in January. But I would imagine if maybe some of the other scenes they might take some stuff up to Iceland, that kind of a way. But at least we can safely assume that a Master Universe is going to cost about over 150 million. Am I right?
I think so.
You think?
Yeah.
So?
Yeah, I guess.
But
I don't know.
I have no idea what the scope of the movie is going to be. So
actually, our next
for all we know, it could take place in one little scene, just like 300, like you said.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is, man, you could just make a whole movie about the siege of Castle Grayskull and have that in one scene, right? Yep. Couldn't you? That's kind of the thing. You see, I think the problem is that they're not thinking. They're thinking, we got to go hell for glory and have Star Wars: A New Hope as our new movie, as our first massive movie, a big massive one. And I honestly think, to be honest, the more I actually think about that, I'm like, why don't you just do that? Do something quite small initially, and if the people love it, spend 100 million, make a lovely Castle Grayskull set and have a whole big thing, and just take the whole movie and put it in front of Castle Grayskull, and have that whole thing run there. And then if that movie does well, then make the big lavish affair you want to do next. But
you could just start with just an epic battle.
Yeah, exactly.
You
could
jump right in, and then if it's successful, then you can go back and tell your backstories.
Wouldn't that be neat?
Lord of the Rings style. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, for me, as I've gotten older, I've gotten less and less away from the kind of big epic fantasy, and I've gone more for that. And now this is weird for me to say this because I don't like humor in my fantasy particularly, but I've got more of it, like almost do like an 80s style barbarian movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So you don't have too many massive sets, but just sort of like a Conan-esque, almost not even as I don't know, but just like a big old 80s style, and be bold about it. Have his harness, have the furry pants, have the big. Don't have it like sort of like, oh, I'm going to put tech armor on him, or I'm going to do this. It's just like, just keep to the source material. Do a big ass cheesy awesome movie with swords clashing, riding frickin' battle cat, attacking, just do a big awesome movie. But you don't have to spend zillions doing it. Do it 80s style.
And I think that's what they're probably doing, because they probably, we got to make a new franchise, we got to make it big, it's got to be, it has to be, obviously, and it's like it seems like they're rigid in how they would approach things. I think the more we keep talking about this, the more. What do you think about that, Emiliano? Just as an opening movie, just do something small and then make it a bigger movie and on the sequels and stuff. Emiliano, we lost you. Have you died?
No,
Did the flu eat you?
Sorry, no, I had muted to cough and forgot to. It depends on what small means. Like
300. Again, 300 takes place in one.
Small
it's about one event.
Not on budget.
Yeah, small in scope is it's one event.
It still doesn't feel like small in scope or like I think probably small for me is just not having big armies and big wars, clashes, etc. But more focused on groups of people moving around, etc.
Yeah. I like that. I like that comment, because to me, Skeletor doesn't have armies when he starts off. He builds them as he goes along. And eventually...
like take Indiana Jones. You don't have a big spectacle of giant armies, etc. It's just a great adventure with just few characters.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Yeah,
I think that
it can be small in that way, but that doesn't mean it has to tell a small story. It can be a big story, just keeping it focused, I think.
I dig that. Yeah, that's good. Any final words on that, Josh?
No, nothing other than Sony's been working on this since 2007.
Oh yeah, you're
so I'm sure they have amazing plans and great ideas that they're combining and balling up.
I do wonder how much concept art has been made for this over the years.
Well, you saw that leaked piece that was, when David Goyer was doing it, I think, and it was that weird like undersea Tila costume, or I saw that and my heart sunk.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here.
God.
Yeah, and then there was a guy on Instagram that was posting some maquette he had done of, I think, Beastman and Ramman, at least.
Well, that's Mario. That's Mario. He's a guy I've worked with in the past, and he's an exceptional sculptor. But obviously, he's a small cog in a big wheel, But I saw his Beastman maquette, which I thought was pretty good.
I haven't seen that. Have I seen this? I haven't seen this. Why haven't I seen this, guys?
Yeah, I don't recall
Mario's last name. Mario
Van Peebles.
I can't think of his last name. I'll have to think about it, and then we can kind of try and figure out, because he's got an Instagram account. I'll find it and link you to it.
Okay, cool. Oh, that'd be nice to see. Actually, I would actually like to see that kind of a thing. Okay, well that's our basic news really. We haven't had any other mad news really coming out. Obviously, we got with Snake Mountain. Still, we're still dying to see the first kind of maybe like a prototype pics of Snake Mountain. I guess we're going to be waiting a little bit longer for that. I was really hoping that we'd have the Snake Mountain by by Christmas and stuff like that. But obviously that's just not going to happen. So
no, it won't be until, I don't know, middle of next year, end of next year.
You reckon?
Man, I actually forgot about Snake Mountain.
I don't. I'm still paying it.
Yeah, same here. I think I've got like 1 or 2 more payments left, and I'm done on that one. Yeah, so I got Comics and Cocktails, by the way, if you're in the UK, have your Snake Mountain. So try that in the UK, and also they've got the best price as well. Comics and Cocktails.
You're gonna do a big review, Eamon, a big YouTube review when you get that.
Well, the thing about it is, you see, I would imagine someone like Pixel Dan will get that first, and he'll get to review it. And I'm not going. Dan, to me, Dan does great work on Hans review, so I don't compete with people like that. It's only I will only do a review if it's something that I actually can say something. So it's like the Mondo figures. I got those in advance. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. I can do that. But when it comes to reviewing other things, that it's like, I'll give my thoughts, of course, on this podcast. But if I get it before everyone else, and if there's a gap for review, I'll do a review. If there's not, I'll leave it to a better reviewer, because I'm actually not a reviewer. Kind of a thing, but it's good fun. But I honest to God, I go to bed most nights, thinking, I wonder how Snake Mountain's getting along now today. I wonder how far along. I mean, I'm just really excited for it, because to me it's like a big diorama piece where I can just cram a ton of figures on it, and it's just going to look great. So I'm just.
You have room for it?
I don't.
No, because I don't.
No, I don't.
I don't think anyone does, huh?
I honestly, we're going to we're talking about the Mondo figures later on. I don't even have room to display my Mondo figures and stuff like that at home. But well, obviously, I'm hopefully going to get a house eventually and have my own little room and things like that. But yeah, it's so many of my. I've got the life-size Pop Culture Shock busts and everything, and I haven't got those on display. So, kind of thing. I don't know if I'll ever actually be able to have even those on display ever. But I'm not. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. All right. So, and the next bit of news was Kevin Smith. This little bit of news was kind of interesting. It's a small little thing, but I swear, man, the people on internet news people, they just. An actor or a creator can sneeze and it's like front page news, and they just spin it into a big article and clickbait the hell out of it. It's like, all right, calm down, everybody, calm down. Kevin Smith says we'll be seeing something in about 6 months. We won't see anything for 6 months. It's like, yeah, that actually stands to reason. We know that, the Netflix animated shows take about 6 months to 9 months to produce at least, a couple of episodes and things like that. So I'd imagine Master Universe is going to open up on Netflix. We'll probably get maybe one episode, and maybe a week later we'll get 2 and 3, kind of a thing. I would imagine they'll stagger it out a bit like they do with Castlevania, because Castlevania only opened I think it was 1 episode, and then like a week later we got 2 or 3 more, kind of a thing. So I'm hoping. To me that's exciting. So as we're recording this podcast right now, people are writing. People are we know that the first 4 scripts have been handed in, because Mark Bernardin was writing the 4th one. Kevin Smith was writing the 3rd script. Mark Bernardin, whom, by the way, liked my tweet, The Sorceress. I post my Sorceress painting, which is people can see on my Instagram account. Yeah, so Kevin and Mark Bernardin liked my Sorceress pics, and I was like, yay! So I was just getting myself a pat in the back. It's like I'm like a little 3-year-old boy getting a pat in the head. That's it. Good little Ned. Good Ned.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. But so that's just really exciting to know that. Okay, so 6 months, and it's nice hearing that, because Kevin, kind of just it's 6 months, and I quite like that, because sometimes these things are so kind of secretive, and it is secretive anyway. But sometimes they're so secretive, like, we don't know until something comes up. But now that we know, that's like 6 months. So honestly, God, it's like, honestly, this time next year we're probably going to be on like season 2 or something. This time next year, and the thing about that is like,
and when you think about it like that, it sounds great.
It sounds, we wonder how much new lore are they going to invent. Some new lore? What are they going to do to expand it, kind of a thing? What would you guys like to see they expand on a little bit? Matt, what would you like them to see expand on for this? What would you like to see them do something new in this new show? Besides, we're hoping we're going to get the big beefy barbarians that we've always wanted.
Absolutely.
And incidentally, just on a sidestep, actually, John Schnepp, may he rest in peace, the absolute legendary man himself. I don't know if you guys know John Schnepp.
No.
Well, John Schnepp is a guy that was on Collider Video. Is one of my favorite. Collider Video is one of my favorite movie people. One of those movies. You got IGN, Nerdist. Well, yeah, those kinds of breaking news type people, and they do the daily shows and stuff like that. Well, John Schnepp used to do this great show, but John Schnepp is also more famously, he's the guy who created the movie The Death of Superman.
Which I've got that. The one with Nicolas Cage.
The one with Nicolas Cage in it.
Okay.
Yes, that's
John documentary.
The documentary. The Death of Superman Lives, isn't it? The Death of Superman Lives, I believe it's called, and it's a whole documentary about that movie that was literally in production, and it got yanked very quickly. There's footage and everything, test shots, the works, everything. And
Yeah.
but anyway, John Schnepp, again, may rest in peace. He told me in private a while back, about a couple of years ago now, that 2 or 3 years ago, that he actually had pitched to Mattel, doing a kind of a more beefy, barbarian-y, blood, guts, glory, sex, Masters of the Universe to Mattel, and they had a couple little things and stuff, and I was like, no way. He goes, yeah, we wanted to do that, and it's just interesting now that that's kind of maybe all right, no sex. I don't want sex in my Masters of the Universe, to be honest. As much as as much as I like that kind of thing.
Sexy though.
Oh no, sexy is good, but I don't need to see. I would like to see He-Man and Teela be in a relationship, but I don't need to see that. You know what I mean? As much as I love
you don't
that.
need to see sex, but it'd be nice to have in a classic. Obviously, not as far as Frazetta goes, but it'd be nice to see Teela represented in a sexy way. You know, I don't mean like really Frazetta-y crazy naked, but just sexy. You know,
it's a fine line, isn't it? Sexy.
It's
now it's
a very fine
sexist. Well, sexy. Now, sexist. Anyone who knows Spinal Tap will get that joke. But sorry, Matt, I interrupted you. I'm talking all over you. Talk to me.
No, that's it. That's what I was saying. It's just, it would be cool to have in a classic, like I was saying earlier, classic sort of 80s barbarian style, not sexist women being pathetic and at barbarians' feet, but sexy.
Yeah.
In
I'm
the same
sure they
way as
will.
The guys are sexy. The guys are like topless and super powerful or whatever. It'd just be cool to not hold back, is all I'm saying. Not be afraid of what it was, of its origins.
I mean, Teela's design is just innately sexy anyway, so she is going to look amazing, and so will Evelyn, and so will the Sorceress. They're all going to look absolutely stunning in this new series.
Yeah.
And looking at the guys doing the model sheets for Eddie Nunes, he's going to just do some really nice stuff. But in terms of lore, Josh, what would you like to see in terms of, because obviously this is meant to be an expansion of the original animated series, not that really had much by the way of any kind of continuity, but what would you like to see them add to it?
I think they can start from any point. Like, I think they talked that it's going to fall a lot on Teela, but I'd like to see them take it way back and then take their time over. I don't know how many seasons they've said they hope to have, but Netflix does give you that opportunity to really spread a story out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you, rather than the complete opposite of a movie, you can take your time, you can go to amazing places and then just jump over to other characters.
Absolutely. I would like to see, I've always wanted to see, or maybe talk about comics later on, but I've always wanted just to see, just give me a good story about that time when Mechanic got surrounded.
Exactly.
Or
right.
something along those lines. That time that
into a
Buzz-Off
scene,
was challenged or
right.
whatever.
Jump into a scene, you could tell everything you need to tell about that character, that backstory, what's going to happen then, and move on to the next one. I don't know. Do you think there's going to be Orko?
Of course, they're not going to do Orko. They're not going to not. Orko is an intrinsic part of He-Man now. I think they're going to do.
Well,
and I think the thing is, man. Look, I mean, MV Creations made Orko kind of cool. To me, I much preferred MV Creations, not MV Creations. Mike Young's rather. Mike Young's 2002. I really liked that Orko. I legit liked that Orko. I know he'd one or two goofy scenes, but I did like him when he played the Oracle. I did like that angle, the whole that scares the looky loose, that kind of thing, and I like the wise, bungling aspect of him. But I think they could make him more wiser and more bungling. I do not want him to be. In Filmation made him a child, and I didn't like that.
But I loved him as a child.
Oh right, but I mean, but this show isn't going to be aimed at kids, is it?
Me, but I just can't. I don't know. I can't really accept it
as a grown-up.
Serious now. Yeah.
I think you'd be surprised.
Okay, so like in Transformers, those little two wisecracking.
Oh yeah, well they're racist, those little dudes, though, aren't they?
Regardless, but that's what I would picture an Orko character. That's what they're going to do to it.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be he's the comic relief. I mean,
it's going to be the comic relief, and it's going to be like a ridiculous, over-the-top, childish comic relief.
Okay.
As long as he doesn't say Snoochie Boochies, then I'll be all right.
Yeah, that's well. We do also
that I'd be on board for.
Literally,
if Jay played him as like Jay as Orko.
Oh my god, that would be so bad.
Snuggins. That it would be funny. Emiliano, what would you like to see them do it in terms of lore and whatnot?
Well,
Although Kevin says they're going to get Jay to do Stinkor. He's more of a Stinkor. That's what Kevin said.
Yeah. Well, it's harder for me to give a comment on this because, as you know, I've been involved in writing about the past of Masters of the Universe, creating my own story for the comic, etc. So I've been studying a lot, and now, of course, it has been quite a few years since I've the stuff. So
rare now.
Yeah, it's different. I probably feel different. I think it's about the approach more than the specifics. So, and that's also what I was talking about She-Ra last time, and probably going to talk again about it later in this episode. Using the right approach. Let's make an example. We know this because of behind-the-scene materials we've been reading and finding out that Castle Grayskull in Filmation cartoon has been built over giants and dinosaurs' bones, and then this structure sits on this pile of giant bones. You can't really see them, but as James Eatock once revealed, in one of the actual backgrounds and animation backgrounds are made by several layers of cells painted. If you peel some of these layers, you can see
more of the structure.
Yeah, more of the structure under Castle Grayskull, and you see there is this huge dragon skeleton holding Castle Grayskull up.
No way!
Yeah,
a dragon skeleton holding a skull, the human skull up.
Yeah, it's the entire thing, I guess. I think I've seen the sketch at one point.
Oh wow!
Did he post that online, Emiliano?
No, he never did. I think only somebody, I don't know if Robert Lamb or somebody else, posted the pencils for this.
I feel like I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, in one of the backgrounds, it's actually all there painted, fully rendered.
Wow.
So, okay, I would like the writer of this show to know the stuff and just say, okay, so there was this giant battle and this castle was built on the bones of these creatures. Why? What happened? And try to find out all the stuff and explain all the stuff. But this is my archaeological approach to this stuff.
Yeah, but that's mystery though.
Yours is like old lore.
Yeah.
That adds lots of mystery and everything as well. See, that it's a kind of a sense of mystery and like a story to be told somewhere.
Yeah, of course.
Deep cuts.
Yeah, that's a deep story though.
But you could do that in like one episode. I remember there's like one great episode of Avatar Korra where it's the animation's a different style because it's based way back in history and past. It's quite stylized because it's like the first story of the very first Avatar, and it's very very interesting. Now you could do something like that in a new show where it's like you could tell the story of these battling giants that before there was humans in Eternia or something like that. There's some say right out the door there. That just inspires a ton of ideas and imagination there, and it's like, yeah, you make a good point. Do the animators know these kinds of things? And they need to be getting someone like yourself and E-Talk on this kind of case, really, just to give these little because that
exactly right.
But these little factoids, I know what.
Yeah.
While they're little factoids, they do help, inform and build on it. There's a story to be built on some of these notions. But go on, Emiliano.
Oh yeah, I just had a million ideas to spring up just listening to that. Then you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the idea of Castle Grayskull, I think it's been talked about before, being an actual giant skull that corroded and crumbled, and it's kind of almost a bit like in the Marvel universe with Guardians of the Galaxy, where they mine minerals. The Celestials, yeah. So imagine like the head being like, it was the head of a giant, celestial type Master of the Universe creature. I mean, there's that. I mean, that's been talked about before, but I do kind of like that idea. Yeah, that would work. That's kind of neat.
That's very cool. Any more to say on that, Emiliano?
I think also, now that I'm thinking about it, also I don't want to have everything explained though. I'd like to keep some of the mystery around certain things, hinting some stuff, going back to explore some of the old stuff that wasn't explained, but always leave a layer of mystery and unknown stuff. Because you remember when we were kids, there were stuff that didn't make sense to us, like
that's because we were stupid.
Characters in the wrong place. I know, character in the wrong place in the box art or in the mini comics. And of course, we didn't know there was the real reason for this, because they were based on wrong storyline or bad informations from Mattel, etc. They were all complete. There were no real storyline attached to them. It was just errors or mistakes or just things not thought through. But I remember the mystery of all these that made me imagining stuff, like what's going on, what are these things flying in the sky behind Castle Grayskull, etc. So keeping that will also be cool. Trying to recreate that sense of marvel and mystery that some of the stuff had when we were kids. That will be cool.
Cool,
right? But a lot of that has to be done. Even if they don't explain it to us, I hope that they flesh it out and explain it to themselves before they make it, so that like, it is important to create backstories and know your characters, know your setting, even if you're not going to use all that information in the actual finished product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that you do. Indeed, you do, and that you do. Well, we can continue.
I'd like him to go back and talk about the people in the He-Man's village, from the early mini comics.
Those guys.
And there's that dude, and I'd like him to change his name from Cyril. I always thought when I read that he was called Cyril. Am I correct in saying I think it was Cyril, right? The guy with the beard.
Cyril?
Like in one of the old, maybe the Marvel UK comics, He-Man goes back to his village and sees, like, remember the bearded guy that's waving? There's an old dude, a woman, a couple of kids, and a bearded guy, and he like BattleCat jumps out and snarls at him, and he's like, whoa, that's my buddy Cyril. I mean, look at it.
I'm drawing blanks here on this. I've no what.
It's not like Durgor or something, anything.
All right,
no,
Cyril.
Exactly. It's like, all right, Cyril, how's it going, mate? So I was like, yeah, that needs to change.
So we're gonna have to.
Look that up. I'm pretty sure. I mean, Emiliano, you probably know that, right? Is that correct?
I think you're on your own here, Matt, with this one.
Yeah. Check it out.
And Emiliano's coughing, so he's on mute still.
Oh, he's probably coughing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Look that up. I think it's a Marvel UK comic, and he's the you're aware of the panel I'm talking about in the mini comics, though, right?
The panel, yes. If there is something else in the UK comic, I'm not that of an expert on those.
I've read all UK comics. I don't remember any Cyril, but then again, I did read it only once, and I was like 9. So
no, look it up when we get off. Look it up, and I'll bet you'll find it. And I'm pretty sure it's called Cyril. Either that, or I'm very drunk.
Listeners, can you please write in eamon@eamonart.com or just message Matt and tell him about. Let's confirm the existence of Cyril. All right, He-Man's chieftain elder dude before he became Prince Adam or whatever.
Yeah.
The story. Right. Cyril, the search for Cyril continues. Okay, we're going to carry on now. We're actually going to continue on the kind of hypothesis. Actually, no, this isn't a hypothesis, but this is Emiliano when he studies his stuff, comes up with some cool ideas, and we're going to... You finally finished off. Right, so aside from Emiliano myself, have any of the rest of you actually watched the rest of the She-Ra animated series?
No. I finished season 2.
You finished season 2, so you don't mind getting a few spoilers here, do you?
Of course not.
All right, well, listeners, there are some spoilers up, but it's if you've not seen all the seasons so far of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power on Netflix, well, you're going to get so spoiled now. So maybe you can switch off a little bit if you want for the next few minutes. I don't have a time code on this because that's a lot of hassle. And, you should have watched She-Ra by now anyway, really. Come on, get on the case, guys. But Emiliano, take it away, because you said you were on about something very specific, and you said to me in our private chat that you saw something quite specific. And I remember last time on the podcast, I went on about Mara, and now that we've seen what Mara looks like, it's like, what? Go on. Talk to me. What are your observations on She-Ra and the Princess of Power?
I've seen her appearing there, and of course you're right, and well, it's pretty obvious that's Mara from New Adventures.
Yes,
and that's cool. I don't know what they plan to do about that, but it's something unexpected and cool. What happened was also that I was watching season 2. As I was telling you guys last time, I had left. I stopped watching around half of. Well, not really stopped, just forgot about it about halfway in season 2, and then I kept watching, and it became so cool and interesting that I had to keep going and finish season 3 in like a couple of days.
Yeah.
And my reaction
binging on
was...
She-Ra. There you go. That's something we never. That's a very 21st century thing to say, isn't it? Binging on She-Ra. There you go. How cool is that? And next year we'll be binging on He-Man. Yay! Right, go on.
I hope is as good, honestly, because it got me really excited. And at the end, I mean, my honest opinion, I know you guys were shocked about what I said last time, and this may shock you even more, but I would say...
Brace yourselves, listeners.
Yes, this is really the best thing that happened to Masters of the Universe in the past 10 years.
Controversial outrage amongst the fans! Incels are smashing their heads against the screen. Oh, Emiliano, what are you doing? You're not going to upset our listeners, man. Don't be upset. Don't poke the bears, man.
Go on, poke them.
Go on.
I'm deadly serious about it. Like, it was Masters of the Universe, the storyline, the Horde, Eternia, and even if they don't mention everything else, is exactly the story we want with added depth that wasn't possible in the 80s. And there is a lot of possibilities. And of course, then we got to this stuff that made me really curious, because the guys working on this show really made their own works. They've been reading a lot of stuff.
You reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, like, they're referencing the 2002 cartoon too, for example.
Go on. Oh, yes, they did.
Yeah, but maybe not just that. To make sure, I went back and I've been reading my 2002 comic book Bible, the one we wanted to use for the comic before we had to stop, where I would say I had laid down all the backstory, as Josh was saying. I wanted to know everything about the story, even if I wasn't going to tell all about it. And what struck me, there were some similarities between the story they were telling me, they were telling in the show, and my story. Now rereading the Bible, I think the wording is not so similar, so I wouldn't say that they may have read my Bible, but if they didn't, they still came to the same concept. And now, to explain, for who has seen the show, they say that Eteria is trapped in the Spondos. Yep. Now, if you remember, in the 2002 cartoon, the Spondos was this dimension where Hordak was banished.
Yes.
And it was trying to escape.
Yeah.
Now, here, in the She-Ra cartoon, we are in the Spondos. And the Spondos is this sort of pocket where Mara has put Etheria to keep it safe from the rest of the Horde.
Yeah. And
Hordak is trapped into Etheria and is trying to get out to join the rest of the
Horde Empire.
Yeah, and he's the brother of Horde Prime, etc.
Yeah, they mentioned that too, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how that was in the comic, if Hordak was also Horde Prime brother.
No, that was actually something we saw that we saw that in the bios. So that'd be a Scott Knight jobby, wouldn't it, that one?
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Yep.
And but well, what I was going to do in the comic was to have Eternia trapped in the Spondos.
Oh.
So it was very similar.
Eternia gets trapped in the Spondos, or Eternia is trapped in the Spondos?
It's I think it's the Ancient that put Eternia in the Spondos to keep it safe from the Horde.
Right. Okay.
So Hordak wasn't actually trying to escape from the Spondos, but get into the Spondos. So that was going to be the revelation in the comic about the storyline in the cartoon. Of course, you can see the similarities. I don't hope that they actually read it, but they may have just come to a similar idea. Of course, if they did, I wasn't really happy when some of the stuff from my comic was used for the bios in the Masters of the Universe Classics. Well, everybody knows that. And I wasn't happy not because it wasn't flattering, but because, well, we have been told to keep quiet about it, and that wasn't true when, of course, it was obvious. Here, that doesn't bother me at all. It's actually pretty nice that somebody has dug that deep into the lore and the stories that everybody has been contributing to for Masters of the Universe and Princess of Power. So if they did, I'm quite happy. If they came to the same conclusion, it's just a coincidence, that's great too, because we were thinking alike. And I love that I thought about something so close to a cartoon that I think it's so great.
I mean, did you think by it? Basically, I guess the short and skinny question would be: Will we see He-Man in the Princesses of Power? Will we see Eternia? Because look, here are the main connections besides everything, because it's like they're basically doing everything but telling us about He-Man, essentially.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So it's all there. It's not like they're not retrofitting. They're expanding and pushing other things in different directions, but it's the core is still the same. She was abducted, she was taken, her memory was wiped, and Hordak became a kind of a father figure. Although in this it's more Shadow Weaver is playing a far more motherly role, I think, than Hordak was in the original. In this, which I quite like, It's quite good. Yeah. It's more of a female-oriented show anyway, so they're going to push more towards that way anyway. But I think what they're doing with the Hordak character in Princess of Power is quite interesting as well. And that whole Entrapted thing, I thought was very intriguing. And I was like, oh wow, cool! You went there with that wicked, nice one. And that episode, man, where they really do start talking about when Catra does her bad thing, that she's like that was like some legit excitement there. I hadn't been that excited with a Master story since one of the Snake Pit episode from Masters of the Universe 2002. Do you remember how exciting that was? He-Man gets chucked into the pit and he's hopeless. He's like, oh my god, he legged this. He-Man ran out of the pit now, and that was things that are so exciting. And it's nice to see this kind of stuff adapting, but hearing Despondus is like, whoa, that's a deep cut there, guys. So How could, in theory, this tie into He-Man, do you think? And where does Mara come into it, do you think, Emiliano?
I don't know about Mara, because that's really a crazy idea.
That is a proper. I mean, maybe it's a red herring. That
it might. Yeah. I think that they brought this hope that they could use He-Man at one point. Because, as you said, everything points to that. It's like it's exactly the story we know, retold in a great way, and the only missing parts are He-Man and Skeletor in this, and Grayskull, of course.
Yeah.
So it's
they don't even have Grayskull in there? I thought they did. She says by the power of Grayskull, right?
She does. She says by the power of Grayskull, and they mention Eternia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But nothing else. We don't know what.
You guys are going to make me watch this bloody thing, aren't
Watch
you?
it with the girls, Matt. Watch it with the little girls, dude. You love it. They love it.
Well, she watched it and sadly wasn't into it, so I was sitting there going like, she's 11. She's 11 now, so
okay, yeah,
she's kind of past that age, but I'm going to try and force her into it so that I can feel legit.
I mean, go in there knowing what it is, now, Matt. It's not a show for us, but just go in there with that notion. But as like Emiliano says, it's the story elements and the expansion of some of the lores that they really seem to.
That's good, right?
The story is good, I think.
But I think the story is good as well. Like all the emotional part about Catra in the last few episodes.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was like really good.
Yeah. Now, will He-Man appears or not? My fear is that Mattel is saying no at this point because they have their own show, and of course, from their point of view, having two different versions of the same character airing at the same time will be confusing for their customers. Which I wouldn't care at all. I would love to see them in both shows, even if they are completely different.
But Mattel produce different versions of Batman at the same time, don't they, as figures?
Batman is a bit easier to do. It's just because it's already exists in so many versions. The Batman is Batman. Everybody recognizes him. He-Man, not so much. So... unfortunately, I think it will boil down to legalities and conflict of interest, etc. But it would have been awesome to have He-Man in the story. It wouldn't change the rest of He-Man. It wouldn't change another show. But just to complete this story, it will be great. So I hope they find a way to put him in and to finish this the right way.
Even if they put him in, I think they'll sneak him in at some point in some way, but I don't think they'll flush him out at all because of the new show.
No, that's it. I mean, I would be of the opinion that He-Man could literally show up like in one of the last episodes.
Yep.
Like, and just be like one of those, right, and then...
Right, just to tie it up so that you know.
Yeah,
put a little bow on it.
Yeah, put a nice bow on it.
Oh, Jesus. You actually made me picture the final scene of the final episode.
Exactly. You and I, or let's see if our brains are lining up on this one. It is one of those big kind of big reveal, happy moments. There's a whole other world out there. Look at this, and it's like boom. There's a whole huge universe out there now.
Well, and there is for the kind of show it is. There is no need to show much of it. Just and not even say anything. Just her finding out where she come from, and she finally go home. And the last scene is just her meeting Adam, Randor, and Marlena, and that's it. And the show could close that way.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's
so not even showing He-Man, just literally showing the family.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no need.
That'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
Exactly. Like because then it would like you could then so who's that guy? What's that about? Okay, well now you can watch this other you can watch this other Netflix show now and see what these characters are about, and it gives you more of an idea what this is about as well. You see, so
that's cool. That would link up nice.
You know, it doesn't have to link up in any other way, but that's just one of those kinds of organic things. It's like if She-Ra ends in the last episode with being introduced to Randor and her family, you could. The new TV show, then, if anyone's curious, then hey, you got Masters of the Universe now, and He-Man's different in this way, and this is that. And I think it would distinguish the brands quite well as well. And then somewhere down along the line, towards like Series 4 of Masters of the Universe, we can have She-Ra, and it doesn't have the time, but she can come in her own organic way, like she always did, and stuff like that as well. This is good stuff, lads. I like this. That's it. This is good.
I hope you're writing it down.
Write it down. Well, it's been recorded, so yay! Okay. All right, so we're going to very much change gear here now. I'm going to put this down. And we're going to actually grab it. Oh, we're going to grab it, lads. And we're going to get into some like figure reviews and talks here now. Now, sadly, Matt and Emiliano haven't got theirs because this is a nightmare to flip and well get. Oh, I had so much hassle. I had so much hassle getting this, and we're going to. And Josh has got one, so this is great. And Josh and I have finally gotten our Masters of the Universe Origins figure, our 2-pack from San Diego, and it's like, wee. And well, Josh, you want to like take it away then? With what do you think? I'll tell you what. I'll open mine. And let's talk about the outer packaging.
You show yours first, and then I'll show mine.
I shall bust mine out. There it is on the table.
Release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken. And first of all, it's got this nice outer box, of course, which has got He-Man's harness on, nicely painted there, and it's got I have the power on side on two kind of like I guess engraving plates on the wall, and of course it is very distinctive kind of green bricks of Castle Grayskull, the kind of more mossy kind of green. It's nicely rendered there with the big iron cross that's got those nice little studs that we quite like in it and stuff like that. So that's the lovely nice outer box to it. And Josh, take it away. What happens when we open it?
So when you open it, make sure you take out the box with the plastic wrap around it.
Mm-hmm.
When I first opened it, I pulled the cardboard box out.
No.
Didn't realize that there was a plastic overlay.
Oh, Josh, geek fail.
So the full effect of the packaging, I did not appreciate. So, and I didn't realize it until I went to put it back into the box.
Well, now you've done it now.
I know. So if anybody hasn't opened it yet, there is a plastic wrap that actually has artwork on it that slides around the book opening box.
It's really I'm delighted with this. I think it just all looks so kind of, but there's a funny kind of kiddie original aspect to it as well. Even though it is the more barbarian looking He-Man, there is a more kind of a funny kiddie aspect to this. You're not going to get those vibes. But on the outer card, it's a redraw, a recreation of the original Alfredo Alcala artwork, and it's really nice enough. But it's also that we pull that slipcase off, and so at the side you've got lovely Sword of Power drawn in the middle, and you've got it kind of covers up artwork that's on the inside on the card, which is just a really nice touch. And of course on the other side, then you got a Prince Adam, and if you lift that up, he reveals a He-Man. But you lift this up,
except the Prince Adam does not cover the He-Man entirely.
Well, you know.
Just a little nitpick on my part.
The little shield. The shield pops.
The shield sticks out.
Yeah. It totally does. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I wouldn't mind that. That's
hiding it. Yeah. Is a little lost, on that side.
It is. But I mean, to be honest, I hadn't really noticed because the shield seems to kind of blend into the sky a little bit there. But I just like that kind of, fun reveal, and then you reveal the He-Man then underneath, Massimus logo above it, and it's got the you pull that thing off. Oh, it's got the lovely kind of scroll banner there, and it's got a very nice kind of nod to the kind of the original mini comic packaging backs, which just had these artwork of the figures before the figures were even designed, right? And what happens then, Josh?
So then you open it up, and I think your favorite part, there's a comic in the middle.
Yay!
There's a 4-page hard cardboard comic.
Yes. But you open it up, and it's like, oh, it's Prince Adam, and he's kind of like, Skeletor's about to jump at him, you see.
So yeah, on the left-hand side, you have the Prince Adam.
Yep.
And again, there's a plastic overlay. So these are very collector-friendly. So that you can just...
really collector-friendly.
Yep. So it just slides right off the front, and then you have access to your figure.
Mm-hmm.
He comes packaged.
So you don't have to bust. You don't have to bust anything up to get him out.
You don't have to break anything.
Nope.
That's good. I didn't know that. That's good. Yep. Good to know.
So you have Prince Adam on the left-hand side. Comes with an extra head, 4 hands, and then on the right-hand side you also have Skeletor, but you have He-Man.
Yeah.
Also with the classic head and 4 hands.
Yeah, but you don't know that's happening. You're supposed to open like the normal way, Josh. It's like, oh, who's this guy? This blonde kid being chased by this bone-headed Skeletor, and then you're introduced to what the blonde kid is. Josh, go on, man.
I don't think anyone purchasing this is being introduced to these characters or figures for the first time.
Well, look, man, I'm just imagining what it would have been like to have been given this, and I was like, oh wow, look at this.
As a kid,
you would have had to been a very rich kid to be given this.
This is very true. But then the comic rolls along, and it's basically Skeletor chasing Prince Adam, and some of the dialogue is kind of interesting and stuff like that. They're letting us know that this is, they're really letting us know that this is Prince Adam, and he likes the ladies. They mentioned that twice in that thingy, which once was enough, guys. Come on. But I love the feel of it, and then it's like it's comic book, but it's like 2 pages of comic, but it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 pages of comic, but it's like 2 sheets, a nice kind of heavy cardstock that you paint, and it basically just kind of introduces like, oh, what's happening here, and then you turn it over, and it's like, what's happening, and then you reveals the figure of He-Man. And tell us about the figure, Josh.
Figure is actually my favorite. I was really surprised that it actually feels like a vintage figure. Looks like a vintage figure. I did immediately snap on the vintage head.
Did you?
Yeah. I don't know what your preference is. But...
I prefer the one that it was on, actually.
Really?
I know.
I was shocked. I was shocked when I saw that. But you were saying, Eamon, it's because it's a bad approximation of what the vintage head is.
The vintage head is. You go back to those old photographs and any of the old original. I mean, what's the specific?
Oh, they're beautiful.
What's the specific? Yeah. What's the first He-Man? Which is the one with Emiliano? Is that the Taiwan one? The Taiwan is the first He-Man, is it, or is it the Malaysia one?
Taiwan.
Taiwan. Yeah, the Taiwan He-Man. The very first He-Man figure with the Taiwan. That's your He-Man. That's the head.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That's the tentpole head. And you actually go back and look at that head sculpt. It is pristine. It is clean. It is a definite, specific face of a dude. It's not Schwarzenegger. It is, but it has the heavy structure of a heavily structured faced man. And it's just, and it just seems to, I don't know why they couldn't get it right with the Giants.
The Giants were awful. I don't think they even tried.
The Giants? What do you mean the Giants?
Well, actually, no. Sorry.
The 12-inch figures you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the 12-inch classic ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Not Megator and.
No. The 12-inch Super 7.
Oh yeah, they
or
awful.
Yeah.
They're like money banks, like piggy banks.
Yeah, those ones. Yeah, those. But chronologically, actually, they were the first time we saw that He-Man being reproduced. That was the commemorative series from 2001 or 2000, or whatever that was. And at that He-Man looked terrible there as well.
That did look terrible.
And
I don't know why they can't simply get an old He-Man head and do exactly what I do. I mean, I might be being naive, and just pour silicone over it and mold it.
Honestly, so what are they doing? How could you reproduce that head exactly, Matt? I mean, surely you'd have to go back that the silicone
molds... 3D scan it now.
I mean, 3D scan would be the way to do it. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I could, if I have one of those heads right now, within 2 hours, I could produce a perfect, albeit say 5% smaller because of shrinkage of materials. I could produce an exact copy of that head. You just mold it and cast it out. It's easy. So I don't know why they don't do that. Huh?
It's the problem is, of course, shouldn't be the reproduction, because between molding or scanning it, getting a perfect data is not the case. It looks like they're unable to recreate the mold, which is a different process. The mold has to be carved out and steel by the milling machine, and I don't know why they're not able to do that.
I have no idea, man, because other heads look great. I've seen,
but
the Horsemen do amazing.
Yeah, the thing is, all the hold heads that we like most are done in vinyl.
That's true.
And they were rotocasted. So maybe there was a different process in creating the molds for rotocasting that is different than. Well, of course, it's different. Than just milling the steel, the big steel block. To do the PVC. I'm trying to find out how exactly is a rotocast mold done right now. But the process is different. I think the big difference is there. And I don't know why they don't just try to do it that way. Just do vinyl heads.
Because it was interesting as well. Even back in the day, Mattel had trouble making that particular head solid. Because even on the Thunder Punch He-Man and the subsequent reruns of He-Man, they went for the harder head, and that didn't have the detail of that original vinyl head either.
Good.
But those are different molds. So
they redid the molds to do it in injection molds, and that started to change the shape, etc. It was still similar to the original one, but not as good as the vinyl heads. Yeah. So it has to do with that. I'm sure that the original. I've seen one head mold, an actual mold. It was not the Taiwan, it was the Top Toys, which was pretty good. The Top Toys head was pretty good. And it's just, it's
Top Toys listeners, by the way. What are Top Toys, in case listeners don't know? Because we could have a lot of new listeners that aren't as heavy into this kind of stuff.
That's true. And I explain a bit about the mold too. Top Toys was the factory that got the license to produce Masters of the Universe toys in Argentina in the 80s. They're quite popular now among collectors because they have a lot of differences with the original line, and also there were a lot of variants too among the Top Toys because of different supplies, shortage of supplies during productions, pigments not available, and also because of their contract and constant reissue of the figure in Argentina, they were trying to change something in each figure every time. So, for example, when they reissued Mosquito at one point, they decided on purpose to use a black liquid instead of red to differentiate it from the first issue. And now
that's kind of cool, though.
Yeah, and
black liquid is cool.
Just to go very nitpick. Yeah, for some time, even myself, I've been saying that wasn't true. That the blood was always red, and there was something in the plastic that leaked that made the blood black. No, I was wrong. Everybody was wrong about that. Actual owner of the factory, Hector Mondrick, told us the story. It was
wow.
black on purpose.
Wow, there you go. It was black what?
The
on
black
purpose.
liquid.
On purpose.
Yeah.
On purpose. All right.
Yeah. They picked a different color on purpose. Now, we went on this weird tangent. Now, so injection molds and rotocast molds. Difference between these two things. Injection molds are block of solid steel where numeric controlled milling machine carves out the negative shape of the plastic part you want to produce. Usually they are done in two halves. The milling machine carves the two halves of the part. They're put together and plastic is injected at high temperature and high pressure in it. And when it cools down, the mold is opened and the workers pull out the finished piece. Usually the injection molds are used for PVC plastic, like limbs for the vintage figures. Those are PVC plastic. And for ABS plastic, the torso of the vintage figures is made of ABS.
Right.
And they have different purposes and different needs. They have different also way of behave on stress, and that's why they're used for different things. There are also different other type of plastics that are used in production of action.
Are the legs and the
figures,
arms the same plastic?
Yes, it's PVC.
Yeah,
I
PVC.
believe they were also in the same mold back then, at least for the first figure. That's why also it was cheaper to keep them in one mold and mold them in one color.
Because it always felt to me. Sorry, go on.
No, good.
No, I always felt to me that the legs felt slightly different to the arms, just a little bit. Or was that? No.
Did you ever have French figures?
I had, I had a trap jaw, a French trap jaw, because I broke my first trap jaw, and I had a French trap jaw, and his mechanical arm was rock hard, and it would snap very easily, whereas the original trap jaw had a more flexible plastic. The
Right,
ABS.
they had different plastics for legs and arms.
Yes, they were different. It's I know what you're saying because the arms always looked more opaque to me.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
But I wonder if that's due to the age and
Or
because
thickness.
That's what I was thinking. It's probably
and
age.
thickness. Yeah, because and maybe you hold the figure more with your from the arms and you move the arms more, so more of the grease from your hand is deposited on the arms of the figure.
Probably so, yeah.
But
I had a
I'm pretty sure
Megatron.
they're the same.
I went to France when I in my 20s, and I was kind of like in between that stage of liking Master of the Universe, but kind of just being like, yeah, I'm into girls, and going out to nightclubs and whatever. And I went to France on a job and went to a weird little comic shop and saw a boxed Megator. And this is before I even knew prices, costs, anything. And I was like, oh, that's cool, yeah. And I bought it for like the equivalent of £25.
Oh.
And just walked away with it. And I was like, this is cool. Tore it out the box, played with it, took it on my shelf, threw the box away. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I was just like, oh, this is cool. And then I was at work, and there was a guy at work, and he had one of those, remember those old 12-inch Hulk figures with removable pants and shirts? I think it was a Mecco figure, or Miko have the same. And he's like, "Oh, you want to switch out? You want to swap?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I swapped a Meko Hulk figure for this Mega. I know. I still think about that figure. I mean, pristine, never been opened. You know. I'm what am I? I'm 47 now, so it was 27 years ago. So, you know, I was probably about 20, maybe 22.
Remind me to keep this as a topic for next episode. Actually, our biggest regret, because I've got one as well about Masters. Remember that for another topic.
I'm gonna feel like phoning up that dude and saying, "Dude, you got that next
you still have
man. Give it to me."
Just have that dude, that thing that I gave you back. Yeah, I had to have to meet with an old action man one time. Anyway, go on, Emiliano, carry on.
Oh yeah, and well, to cut it short, to go back to
the
the
plastic
mold,
in the legs, yes.
Well, yeah, we were saying probably they were the same. Because what really can change is how soft you make the PVC. What's the mix is of the PVC, and that they seems to be flexible, the same. To have the same flexibility, legs and arms. But anyway, so those are injection molded pieces. Torso are injection molded pieces. Now the heads. The heads are done with a technique that is called rotocasting or rotomolding, where you have a piece of metal which is roughly the shape of the actual part. It's opened on one side and it's empty inside, and you pour the liquid vinyl in it. You close it, and it's put in a machine that makes it rotate in all directions. So it's not just it doesn't rotate on one axis; it rotates on all three axes. And the plastic basically is sorry, I don't.
Like a centrifuge.
Yeah, exactly. And the plastic cover all the inner surface of the mold.
Wow, is that how it works? Wow.
Yeah, and then you pull it out. You open it and you pull it out from the flat surface, from the hole, and then the mold goes back to original. The plastic piece goes back to the original shape, because usually the hole is smaller than the actual part, but because of the properties of the vinyl, it goes back to the shape it has inside, and you have when it's cooled, you have the finished part that can be painted. Now
they pull it out a little warm, huh?
Yeah.
From what I understand, it's still a little warm when they pull it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why. So the heads, Barbie heads, and He-Man heads, they're empty, and they have this whole.
What are you saying, Emiliano?
Empty, heavy bomb.
Josh was straight in there. That weren't you, Josh?
It's funny. The story behind it is funny, because Mark Taylor told us the story many times. They did the heads for Masters of the Universe this way because they were using this way of doing the heads for Barbie, and they just didn't know any other way to do it. It was just their habit to do it. And they just kept doing it for Masters of the Universe. Now, there was a reason for Barbie, because they had to sew in the hair, and Masters of the Universe, of course, didn't need that.
Yeah.
But, out of habit, they just decided to use the rotocasting, and it worked pretty well, because it looked like the amount of details and how good those details were on this rotocasted head they weren't able to reproduce that on subsequent
So
figures.
you would basically think then that had He-Man been made by any other toy company at the time, that head would just look not as good, and arguably maybe because as a kid, man, there was you gravitated towards this head. You knew that that's my dude. There was something really quite potent about how that face looked, and Skeletor's head too. There was also something really kind of clean and bold and simple about them that you just kind of gravitated towards too. But we've completely gone off on one there. We were in the middle of an origins figure. We've either gained a lot of listeners there, we've lost a lot, because that's some deep cuts right there. I find that fascinating.
I was going to say, to pull it back, if and when I do get that set that we're reviewing right now,
yeah,
I'm gonna, even though the head will be a bit crappy, I'm still gonna have the original head on, I think, or possibly take the faker that I've got, the original faker that I've got, that's got a great head, mold it and make my own.
Oh, you should do that. You should do that. You should
Yeah.
do that. Before we continue on with the origins review, Emiliano, was there anything more you wanted to add on to what you were saying there before we move on?
No. Keep going.
Keep going, because we could go off on a whole tangent about
Yeah,
that kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
stuff. We really, honestly could. And
Well, we took time researching the rotocasting mold to understand how they're done.
Yeah, no. To be honest, I've always actually wanted exactly to know, but that's actually just it's quite fascinating. I mean, I work in the toy industry, so it's legit. It's fascinating. So, but it's like you look at like old Star Wars figures, and you're like, why couldn't their heads look better? You know, and there was even other figures at the time.
Yeah.
But obviously, Galoob decided to mimic. Other toy companies started to mimic that then, because Rambo had a soft head. He's admittedly his face.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
His face was okay. I mean, they were trying to go for a more Stallone look on that one. That was a long, weird face anyway to kind of make. And that wasn't okay. But like Rambo had a soft head. Black Star.
Remco, like Remco wrestlers and some of those other.
That's true. The Remco.
The pseudo bootleg Remco stuff.
Oh, did they have soft heads too?
Yep.
Yeah, they did. Think about those. What were they called? Galaxy Warriors or whatever.
Did they have soft
heads?
heads?
They all had. Yeah, they had soft heads. Yeah,
Yep.
from what I remember. Yeah.
From the few that I have.
Right, hang on. Yeah, I've got what's his name?
Oh, I have no idea what these guys got a Warlord. Oh, you've got the Warlord. All right. Yeah.
I'm squeezing his head right now.
Oh, you squeezed the head, man. You go on. Oh, we get saucy on this. Do we get saucy on BattleCast? Don't we, kids? Right? No, but to be honest, this stuff I could actually. This is why we have you on, Emiliano, to wax lyrical on this stuff. But we go off in like mad little tangents. We were talking about, and I do want to come back to stuff like this because that is legit fascinating. I hope Pixel Dan is listening. You're listening, Pixel Dan, seriously, because you've just been. Does Pixel Dan know that about the blood in the chest being black and stuff? I'm sure he does.
I'm sure he does because he loves Mosquito. So.
Oh yeah, that's his jam. Mosquito.
Yeah.
But like, does he know like what happened there? Because that's a fascinating story about how that chest how his blood became black and not red and stuff. Well, I hope he's listening anyway. That's good. Right, anyway, back to this origin series. Couldn't for the love of God. Where were we, Josh? Because Skeletor's. Yeah, but Josh, you kind of you did the thing again. You have to do the story, man.
Yeah, I wasn't big onto the comic in the middle as you were. So.
Why? I mean, the thing is, Mattel's aim with this does appear to be let's try to kind of rekindle a bit of kids.
I didn't know it was a comic because there was no cover.
True, but you know, it's, the outer box is the cover. That's the cover. Essentially, look, what essentially you're getting here. Here's the pitch, Josh. What you have here is essentially a storybook that happens to have two figures with it. Really, that's what we have here. We have a storybook with two figures in it.
The splash page has got the figure in it, right?
No. I guess the splash opening page has the figure in it. So I guess
because it's Skeletor about to attack Adam, right?
Yes, it is.
And then the very last page, which is like your punch page at the end of a comic or whatever, he's running away.
Yeah. I guess, of course, comic books open and close with splash pages, don't they?
Right.
And that's what this does here. So that's does. And things, So he
okay,
does.
so the front of the box is the cover. Okay. I'll concede that.
All right, you can talk about the figure. I'll talk about the comic. And then it goes on. You know, Skeletor has a whole adventure, and Adam is talking. He's talking to some talking heads and stuff, and it's just all kind of fun. And then Goddess says, you got to become this dude, and next thing you're presented then with the brand new with the figure now as He-Man, and now Skeletor's legging it. So you tell us about the figure, Josh.
So the figure is obviously supposed to be a vintage style figure, but has how many points of articulation?
Oh crikey! Well, he's got his wrists articulate, his elbows articulate, his ankles articulate, his shins articulate, his knees articulate. He does not have any ab. Basically, it's pretty much like a classics, but without the ab crunch, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, very similar. Yep.
Yeah, but the swivel is at the elbow, not the not the deltoid.
Right.
And is it a swivel or a ball? Like in Mythic Legions have that waist ball. Is it a swivel or a ball?
It's a swivel. It's not a bowl.
Oh, okay, that's a shame. It would have been good with a little ball.
Yeah,
you know,
I was actually thinking that as well, but I guess this is they're modular, aren't they, Josh? That's the whole kind of point.
Oh,
yeah, well, that's the thing. So their hands pop off, their heads pop off, their waists pop apart, and their boots pop off.
Okay.
I have not tried popping their legs off. Do you know if their legs pop off?
I haven't tried, to be honest. I've only managed. I didn't even bother trying to popping off stuff, but I popped off the waist when I was messing with them one time, and it kind of popped off a little bit. But all the types are pretty secure joints, I must say. This stuff doesn't pop off easily. You can have to.
No, but playability wise, and once the line continues, these are going to be a lot of fun.
You reckon?
Yeah.
You can easily pop off, different boots, swap out legs, swap off heads. I think once this line gets going, customizers won't actually have to customize. They can just piece together the figures they want. Right, it just pops apart.
Particularly with the wrestling figures that are matching up with them as well coming out.
Correct, right. So the new wrestling figures will also be interchangeable. So there's lots of weird parts or different colored parts you wouldn't find in Masters of the Universe, even though the weapons are identical.
With John Cena, right?
Right.
Cool stuff.
Macho Man at Arms. Don't forget Macho Man at Arms.
Yeah. So the He-Man came with the axe and the shield, right?
Yes.
And a dagger in his boot.
A dagger in his boot. Yeah, that's the sweet touch with this one.
Yeah, the dagger in the boot's really cool, and even when you snap off that boot, the dagger stays in it. So you could swap this off with other figures, and he still has the boot with the dagger in it.
Yes. I'm just.
And what are we all thinking of? We talked about the one. What are we all thinking of the new portrait for He-Man, the Alcala inspired?
Well, what do you think, Josh?
Which one? The head you're talking?
Yeah, the head sculpt on the kind of the non-traditional one.
I mean, I have no problem with the sculpt, but I much prefer the vintage.
You prefer the vintage head?
Well, that's my problem. It just doesn't look like how I imagine He-Man.
Yeah,
like the Masters. The Masters
they kept
classics.
The proportions. Yeah, they kept the proportions the same rather than going all full out Alcala.
Right.
If that makes sense, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, it is. That's actually good. That is a good way of description. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a simplified. It's
right.
He's just a bit standard, isn't he? He's just
right. I wish they would have went like more savage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And tried to be a little more original than they sort of tamed down the Alcala to make it look like a vintage head.
Yeah, they have done a little bit. They have done a little bit, and it's. I mean, on this, it's like I prefer this head, the head that was original on, which is the more Alcala style head.
Yeah.
I prefer this head on this figure because I just prefer it on this particular figure, and because it's just.
I disagree.
You don't like it. You prefer the.
Yeah, I prefer the vintage, and my kids do too, because my kids only know the vintage head from their vintage He-Man figures they play with, so they don't even know what this other blonde-headed guy is.
Let me pop this head out.
Color-wise, talking of blonde hair, they need to really.
Oh yeah. See, that's the part that kind of annoys me, and this is why I don't. And Matt has stumbled across why exactly I don't want to use the vintage head, because it's too yellow. It doesn't work for me.
Well, it's not as yellow as the Prince Adam head.
No, yeah, I mean he's like proper peroxide blonde there, isn't he? In the Prince Adam one, it's even because he's pale.
Prince Adam one is just like primary yellow.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah,
sunburst yellow.
And the figure is like really pale.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, the tone.
Yeah, no, it's like super pale. Like He-Man's a little bit more tanned, and I only mean a little bit more tanned. But Prince Adam is like almost anemic looking a little bit.
I love the use of soft goods though on the Prince Adam, including the vintage style belt with a little thing sewed on the front.
Yeah, that's right. His belt is very nice.
A little gold ribbon kind of thing.
Yeah, my little it's not a gold ribbon, it's a gemstone.
Yeah, it's a gemstone.
Oh, right.
An actual little plastic gemstone.
Sewn on, but mine's already popping off.
The edge of the arms, right? Yeah.
And he's got this little like silver kind of what would you call that stuff on the cuffs where his shoulders are?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, I guess, right?
Yeah, there's like a gold kind of a special laminate on there as well to kind of give it that nice kind of cuffy effects. I mean, it's all the thing. This is the thing. it's all very quality done. The quality here is quite good in terms of what the actual item actually is. But I guess maybe as fans, we maybe have just like one or two little things like, why didn't you do that? It's like, I have to say, I'm quite taken by these. I quite like it. I didn't think I would like these as much as I actually do.
Yeah, I agree.
I was a little underwhelmed when I saw the pictures.
Right.
But once in hand, there's something very playable about these. You can get them into
Cool.
some. It does remind you of when you were a kid, saying, "Oh God, I wish I could do that pose," or "I wish I could get a pose that was a bit more thing." And it's like, honest to God, you can get them into some pretty kind of the kinds of poses you kind of wanted to him as a kid. For the love of God, why don't they do the wrist articulation with the other way? Why is it always back to front? Why isn't that up and down, Josh? What's with that?
What's that?
The wrist articulation.
Yeah, that's one of my things.
Yeah.
Back and forth serves no purpose to me. Why does back and forth is a thing?
Yeah.
Up and down is what you want. It changes the pose dramatically if you can have an up
it's
and down
something
movement.
you can do easy. So I don't know why that's the standard though.
It doesn't, and it's like that's the only thing I would love Mattel to change on somebody. Is give at least one of them.
Because anatomically, that's more what you do. Like put your arm down. You have a lot more range left to right than you do up and down.
You do, but I think just for the sake of because these are figures for.
I do or you do.
But
I do.
In terms of combat posing, the wrist going back and forth doesn't add much to the pose.
Correct. Right. You could get him into much better fighting stances.
Yeah, like pointing a sword forward.
Correct.
Yeah, lunging and even the sort of power stuff.
Yep.
Yeah,
power graphical stuff.
Holding it aloft and stuff.
Right. Straight up, you can't do.
No.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird, isn't it? I think it's like you were saying. Factories just do the heads out of habit. It's that same thing. They just put that joint like that out of habit almost. Marvel Legend does it. Even the Four Horsemen do it with their
Mythic Legions as well. I wish they would do it the other way.
100% should have that sword forward pointing action. Imagine how much better. I mean, they're awesome figures, but imagine how cool you get them to pose with their hands going thumb up, little finger down pose. Rather than
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I'm just not sure why that is the case. It doesn't seem to be any engineering restrictions on doing it up and down. Emiliano?
No.
I don't know. I would need to have the figure in my hand to really add something else to what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, what I do like about this guy is that he does have like some nice embellishments on his cuffs. So his cuffs have got an extra detail that isn't on the vintage figure. So that's quite nice. But they're both the same cuffs. In the original figure, he had one longer cuff than the other, which I always liked. I always liked the fact that He-Man had one.
I like that as well. Yeah. Didn't Al Cala draw him with like the same cuffs, but then they've got those little
I guess he probably
bits
did too,
around the rim,
I guess he probably did, didn't he? Hold on.
I think he did. Yeah. Which I kind of like as well because it kind of leans back to the.
Yeah. That's cool.
First,
But I mean, I have him now in the old vintage hit here now, Josh. And yeah, I mean, he's cool. It's just the bright blonde is just a little distracting on that head. I'm so used to that head looking a certain way. I figure like, well, this is a new He-Man figure, so I may as well just go with the new head design.
The new look.
And then
that makes sense.
the sword that comes with Prince Adam is atrocious.
Oh yeah, what's going on there? How did they not test that? Seriously, how does
I
that?
don't know it, man.
It's bad.
Yeah, it's just the problem with the sword is basically this, listeners, is the fact that it's while it's it's all right looking. I mean, it's just a bit flat and boring, and I appreciate that they've gone for more Alcala design, but it's just got I don't know where they're going with the handle on this thing. What
the handle is unbelievable.
It's just
it's
what are they thinking?
Twice the size of the axe handle.
It's ridiculous.
But what happened? Why would that happen?
The axe fits perfectly into his hand. It fits really snug. The axe and the shield work fine. I mean, the shield could probably just be a little bit better actually, but it's still fine. The axe is fine. It's just but the sword, the hilt of it, the handle is just far too thick. The figure does not like it's so big. The figure will the sword will literally pop out, literally pop out in 2 seconds.
Like it's
right. Not only does
it a different line.
Yeah,
it looks horrible and it doesn't work.
No,
yeah, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, don't. And again, it has this. You can tell me if it's true. It looks like right on top of the handle where the hilt began. It's like it's there is this recessed area. It's not flat. It's even, I don't even know to describe. It's not flat, right?
No,
It looks like it's pushed in.
No, it's flush. It's just flush right on top. There's no design at all. It's like, I don't know if they shortened it or I don't know what they did to it.
Simplest possible sword you can imagine, huh?
Yeah, it was just like 3 quick clicks and like a CAD draw, and they made the handle.
Which is a shame, really. I mean, I'm hoping and I'm sure they would maybe revisit the sword and give us a better sword next, because they do need to improve, and you can't be having a sword so rubbish like that.
Because
guys.
Think of the time they spent on the dagger that fits in the boot.
I know, the dagger's wicked. Yeah. See, the dagger's got. They spent time sculpting that. It has a sculpt. It even has a little eagle head motif to it, kind of a thing, doesn't it? So slight eagle head kind of a thing. It's cool. It's very cool. And again, they got little details on the cuffs, as we said earlier, as well.
Yeah, but no markings on the accessories. So as a variant collector, I'm always looking for like country of origins and see if there's any oddball like mold markings, or there's nothing on these accessories.
Yeah, well, I guess those days are kind of behind us now.
That could be a good thing.
Well, there's a marking on the foot.
No, on the figures there are, but I just meant the accessories. If you pop off their boots, they actually left the mold makers like L2, L1.
Ah, sweet.
Oh, funny.
Markings, from the original prototypes.
You'll see that in the Mythic Legions as well, won't you?
I think a lot of figures have that, to be honest. Like, because I customize,
I'm not picking on that. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, right?
Yeah, and actually, the left boot of Prince Adam is different than the left boot of He-Man, even though they look the same.
Yeah, because it had to accommodate the dagger, you see.
No. The He-Man's left. I mean, yeah, He-Man's left. So they should be the same. But one says L2, one says L1.
Ah, cool. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. Okay,
I wonder how they're going to approach Ram Man in this line if they get to him.
He's going to have a whole unique mold, man. They may not even do it and stuff like that.
Wouldn't it? I mean, because getting that dude when I was a kid, I was like, crap. And then
but everybody had him. Everybody had it.
I loved him. But it's like, when the Legends one, the Classics one rather came out, I remember just jumping for joy just looking at that thing. I was like, yes!
Oh yeah, the Classics Ram Man is a thing of beauty, man. I'll tell you, absolutely a thing of beauty. A thing of beauty.
It's like the Classics Battle Cat,
Yeah, absolutely.
That brings us also to the Battle Cat for this one, for these what do we call them? Origins.
Yeah, the Origins
what are you
line.
Thinking about that Battle Cat.
No, we discussed this a little bit on the last one, but I mean we did, didn't we? Yeah, we did. We'll come back to it and stuff when it comes out and things, but it's an odd one. It's a funny old one, that one. But back to this Origins, guys. We got to wrap it up. We got to wrap up shop here, lads, with the Origins. Anything more to say in this, Josh? I mean,
I can't wait till we actually can get them on the individual cards and more people can get them in their hands, because they were a lot more fun than I thought they'd be.
And they're mass retail as well. These are going to be mass retail.
Yeah, so
that would be great.
Yeah, I like them.
I think you're going to like them, Matt, and I think Emiliano. I think Emiliano will like a lot of aspects to them, but he'll have a few frustrations as well.
He'll buy them regardless, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's all of us, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, as Ali called us, suckers, aren't we? We are. I know. Seriously, as I said, like it is trying to explain certain, but it's vintage with the articulation now.
Yeah. No, they really are vintage, and that's what I was afraid of, was that they would just feel like classics, but they don't at all.
No, they have, and I am dying to see how this is going to go down with kids, but it's so far. So I mean, back to my. This one, the presentation of this has just been really nice. I think I've just been really delighted to get this and have it on the shelf, and knowing that I have 2D. I'm dying to get. It's kind of like one of those things. Is like where I don't know how you guys are like when you get your figures and stuff, but it's like I really do like having my figures around me and boxing them up and putting them on a shelf. It's like, oh, I want to see a little bit more of that, because it's new, and these are so new, and especially anything He-Man. But these are going to be lovely, the kind of thing that you can pick up off the shelf and kind of take it out of the box, and it's just a nice experience, I think, overall. But the figures, I think you guys are going to dig them, because they are just fun to pose. You're sitting down, you're watching TV, and it's just, look at him, he's cool there. Oh yeah, I can do that pose. And and the interchangeable hands as well is really nice. nice as well. I mean,
that's cool.
I do.
That was my major gripe with Master Universe Classics, was the fact that we never got He-Man with that open, tense hand.
No.
And I know that sounds such a small thing, but as a kid that resonated with me.
Yep.
Where you had that bitch slap. Oh, sorry. That,
okay. You can say the B word.
That slap hand.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that they're including that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and again,
except for they probably won't include them in the cheaper price point, Target versions, and Walmart versions. So
although there'll be enough. Maybe you could either have hand and feet and head packs, or enough people will be selling them that there'll be hands floating around.
Well,
right.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is going to be one of those things where Mattel has going to milk the living hell out of this particular mold. They are going to, and they're already milking it with the WWE. And this is some cost-effective product right here, because you know what I'm saying. And the kind of things they can do, they can vary, so they can kind of. These are definitely bang out figures, but in terms of bang them out figures, they have a lovely feel to them. I can't remember how guys feel them. Oh, I love the feelings. They have that lovely Mattel quality, but in that kind of a little bit more. You can tell that there's a little bit of they care a bit about this one. They did this. There's a little bit of care gone into it. I don't know.
They're putting a bit of effort in there.
They are putting a bit of effort in fairness to them. I don't know whether it's the right effort at the right particular areas in some cases, but where there's a will, there's a way, and I'm liking that, and I'm just dying to see where they go. I would just, my only criticism so far of this whole line is make up your mind. If you're going to go Alcala, make the rest of the characters look like the Alcala one.
That's my thing as well. That's
so I'm just a bit miffed by that, but it's mad to see them embracing this old design and going for this old barbarian look and things and stuff, and to me it has this kind of he's a bit generic-y, barbarian-y, fresh from the thingy. There's a freshness here going on. I don't know, Josh, if you're getting that, but there's a kind of a new freshy thing going on here with this, but it's, even though I know it's so.
It's vintage. I don't feel anything fresh about it. I don't know. I think they just grabbed the old figures and added articulation. I don't see any.
No, in terms of the feeling it gave me. In terms of.
No, I've always had feelings for vintage figures.
Maybe you lost. I'm not getting on this podcast anymore, Josh. I've decided.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
You should be agreeing with everything I say.
No, I'm disagreeing here. I mean, I love them. They're fun, but I don't know. I still love my vintage figures.
You like your vintage figures?
I'm hoping that at some point after this Netflix cartoon comes out, we get some Netflix style He-Man figures in the store. Imagine if it's very successful.
Yeah, that's true.
Amazing that would be, or at least some maquettes, or I don't know, something that looks kind of like the art, Because did we get Princess of Power figures at all?
They made two.
They made two figures, but they also made the
dolls.
Dolls at Target.
Oh, they sure did. Yeah.
I haven't seen them at any of my local Targets, but.
No, they haven't made over here at all yet. Will you guys be getting into that? Emiliano, will you be getting into those just for a collector point of view? Will you be getting them She-Ra dollies, Emiliano?
Probably not, just because of space at this point.
Yeah.
I want to get the San Diego 2-pack if I can, because I like that one. I like Shadow Weaver, the way it's done, and I like how She-Ra is executed. I don't remember if I was saying that in the last episode, but again, I like that there are dolls, but I don't like that they are not doing action figures, because that was the point of Princess of Power. There were action figures for girls, and why not doing action figures this time? It's like, no, these are exclusively for girls, so they gotta be dolls.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if I don't even think that there is that much thinking. I think that they're just applying a format that worked so well for Monster High and Bratz, and they're just going for a format that was good for them for some time, and they're not just thinking this enough, and or considering it. It's a shame because the figures the Horseman did for Super 7 were very nice.
Yeah, they're lovely, and they're a bit very basic articulation, only 5
very
points
basic
there.
articulation, but the sculpture was
spot
fantastic. Paint application was paint application was perfect. I wish we could get some more of those. Also because the dolls are, they're doing like different ties for Glimmer, but of course she's not going to have exactly that kind of body.
No, because it requires so much more than maybe.
Yeah, so I like that in the action figure format you could have more of the differences that they have in the cartoon.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so strangely haven't made any more of those figures. But listen, we're wrapping. I want to do a Mondo Faker review, and here we have.
I know we got Mondo, we got the comic.
The comics.
Yeah.
So, I told you that it was a long list of stuff to talk about.
It was a long list. Well, look, man, this is great because that means we have we can do this on another episode because.
Yeah. I actually think it's better. We spend the right time on.
Well, we've got to fill up the podcast some way, right? This is what we do, right? We got to actually because we can't be like just blowing our load, inverted commas, like just to whatchamacallit, just to get all of we got to get it all out there. We can just get on. We'll get on to the next topics as we say we go. Well, let this go organically because, of course, on the next episode, boys and girls, we got a special episode on the next episode. Matt will be joining us again. Matt, you're going to bring your CSI or New Orleans friend on for us, and
what's Rob Kirkovich? I'm gonna ask him to see if he's available. He's very
he's big into the movie, isn't he?
He's in love with the movie, yeah. And right. He plays one of the characters on the show that I work on. He plays like the science geek character on the show, and he's awesome. He's a sweet guy, and he will love, and he's very funny.
Yeah, cool. Well, we're going to have him, and he's going to be, but he's playing the role of a guest host, because our actual guest.
I've waited a long time for this.
So Anthony DeLongis and John Atkin. John Atkin will be John Atkin from HeManWorld.com. It's HeManWorld.com, isn't it? It is HeManWorld.com, the Canadian website. Yeah, there is another He-Man website, believe it or not, boys and girls. But John Atkin,
and it's very good.
It's a great website, man. And so John Atkin's coming on. He's so heavily involved with the movies. Well, you might have recognized John from actually the Power of Grayskull Netflix thing. He's his historian as well, but he's kind of very much geared in with the movie and tied in with the movie peeps and all that kind of thing. So he's managed to get Anthony DeLongis on for us, and we'll be joined by Anthony hopefully on the next episode of BattleCast. Oh, I nearly slipped up there again. You see what I did there? I nearly said the other podcast name that I don't do. Yeah. So yeah,
it's just going to become a thing, isn't it? We should just call it Hot BattleCast.
Hot BattleCast. That could be a whole other show altogether, Matthew. I'll tell you that now. But yes, I'm super excited for that. So I hope people will tune in for that. Matthew will be joining us on that one as well. But Josh and Emiliano will get you guys back on again, and we'll be continuing on our conversation about everything else that we haven't gotten around to. Again, the vintage line from Super 7, the Mondo figures, and we haven't even discussed the comics yet. So, and this is great, because this is what we want. We want plenty of things to be talking about. And again, listeners, if you want to be emailing in, eamon@eamonart.com. Email me in any questions you want to ask any of the guys. Emiliano, where can folks find you?
I guess best way is to try to write me on Facebook, on my Facebook page, which is, give me a second, I'll tell you. It should be facebook.com/emiliano.santalucia.artist.
Good stuff. And Matt, where can good folks find you?
Can email me on my regular email, which is mjvotoole, that's OTOOLE, @gmail.com. Or you can find me at on Facebook under Matt O'Toole, Matt with one T.
And we got get your Castle of Power Facebook page as well,
and
where
Castle of Power
folks can
Facebook
see all
page,
your Mythic Legion type customizing heads and stuff like that. You've got a cool little.
I don't answer too much on that page these days because I've just been tremendously busy. Constantly busy. So, but I do try to get back every so often to check in and stuff. But you're better off emailing. If you want to ask questions and stuff, just email.
And Joshua, where can the folks find you, or making any inquiries about Paranormal Investigation? Because you've actually got an amazing discovery as well, Josh. Tell us about well, I didn't give you a heads up about this, so my apologies. Tell them about your amazing discovery, Josh. Guess what I'm talking about. You make a lot of discoveries, Josh. Actually, people should follow Josh Van Pelt on Facebook. What do you want? Josh Van Pelt isn't on Facebook.
I'm just Josh Van Pelt on Facebook, but you can find me on the Power and the Honor Foundation Facebook page, where you can email me directly at josh@powerandhonor.org. But we found a really cool collection of copies of original movie storyboards and paperwork and miscellaneous items, which I haven't even opened. There's 2 boxes of it. So
nice.
We can have a big reveal one day.
You need to get out there and study that stuff, Josh, because we would like the whole episode just talking about like the movie and stuff about that, and because I'm dying to know what scenes were cut, or how it was originally. Because what is this, the storyboard of the exact film we got, or the original storyboard before they started shooting?
So we have lots of versions of the storyboards.
Right.
Emiliano might even know because we've scanned a lot of it in, but
yeah,
there's lots of deleted scenes and miscellaneous stuff and revisions and such.
Josh, send it all over here. I'll sort it out. No, but man, we got it. All right. So you have to. That's quite a bit of admission, actually. I suppose you have to do that, isn't it? To trawl through it and actually.
Well, right. So finding the time to actually sort it and scan it's one thing. Then to figure everything out is a completely different task.
Right. Yep. Okay. So maybe we won't have that as an episode just for quite a while. Yeah. But if you finish, if there's everything you stumble across on there like that, or any cool little finds, like, hey, what did you find this week, Josh? Can we make that a little section?
Yeah, absolutely.
We could even make a little sound bite. What'd you find this week, Josh?
Yep. All right. And we could share a little picture, a little tease of the project.
Exactly. And we can make about when there's stuff of interest start showing with people as the podcast goes on. I will make a Facebook page eventually when there's relevant stuff to go on there and things like that, because I think that will kind of, and we'll tie that up with the Paranormal Foundations once the discoveries they're making and things like that. So it's all very fascinating. But as I said, if you have any questions, email me at eamonart.com. Contact the boys on all their individual platforms there. I have another podcast, the Hot Toy Cast, like your 1/6 figures and high-end collectibles. Go on to that one. I've got 2 fine chaps on me on there. So Josh and Emiliano will probably not be on the next episode. We'll have John Atkin and Anton Longus on. But Josh and Emiliano will be on the next episode. We can cover the rest of the topics. I've probably repeated myself there again, but I'm going to let the episode go now. So I'm going to say good night, gentlemen. Say good night, gentlemen.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night, gentlemen. And thank you for 3 gentlemen for joining me as well, lads. And we'll leave you, listeners, we'll let you go away. I'm starting to babble now. That's what happens. I get tired and start babbling. Fade music. Battle thing is like that. No. Put the axe! Put it down!
The opinions on this podcast do not represent those of Intel. Each host sold separately. Batteries not included.